Hey everybody, it's Damien and Randy here with Not Up for Debate. Welcome back to the show. We're on episode 8. Can't believe we're on episode 8. We're covering philosophy today. We realize we talk a lot about that word, or use that word a lot. Deep philosophical discussion is how we describe our podcast most of the time. And I know Randy's already kind of laughing about it.
Yeah.
We kind of tease back and forth on the idea of that terminology.
What the concept of deep is.
Yeah, what that is.
Like, it's getting really deep in here, by the way.
Yeah. So, before we dive into this podcast, there's a few disclaimers, I guess, I want to put out there, and I hate using that word because it sounds so legalistic. But one is neither Randy or I are experts on philosophy. I've mentioned it before. My degree is in psychology. I wouldn't even consider myself an expert in psychology, so I'm definitely not going to consider myself an expert in philosophy. The other thing is I am using a lot of notes. Right, there's a lot of websites I use to research. So I am going to be. I guess I'm trying not to plagiarize. I suppose. Just know I have a whole list of my citations. I'm just not going to be mentioning them throughout the episode.
Is there some websites that people can go to that they can actually where we got this information?
Yeah, absolutely. I can list those real quick. So we got leverage.edu, invaluable.com, Britannica, that was a big one, biography.com was also a big one, Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, ivpanda.com, thecollector.com, tomthumb.org, and of course, Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. And we know it's always reliable there.
We know that's legit. So just know that as we're going through this, we're not experts, and we are heavily relying on my notes that we've made over the last week and a half. Okay, so it's just us kind of goofing off, having fun during this episode. And the last thing, I'm probably going to butcher a lot of words or terms throughout this episode, and I sort of apologize, but don't apologize as well. I heard a quote once. I don't know if it's a quote, but basically the idea that if you hear someone pronounce something wrong, don't make fun of them because that means that they learned it from reading. So I think that's kind of interesting. So just know that, okay? I did a lot of reading.
I totally disagree. Make fun of them.
You can still make fun of them. You can still make fun of me.
No, I wouldn't say make fun of them. But if you do know the answer, like if I was to say one of the names we totally butchered, I don't remember. And for the record, we're re-recording this intro, but the word Kant comes up.
Kant.
You'll see what we get from there. Anyways.
Exactly. So if you know how to pronounce it right, that's cool. You can let us know. But anyway,
just don't make fun of us.
You can make fun of us.
Yeah, make fun of us. Actually,
that's fine. We're just not gonna announce it on the next.
In fact, make fun of us on video, and we'll actually include that.
There we go. That's a good way to get people involved. I'm not even opposed to that.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. All right. So here we go. So philosophy, right, it comes from the word philosophia, if I'm saying it right, which is Greek for the love of wisdom. The Google definition of philosophy is the study of fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence, especially when considered in an academic discipline. So just based on that alone, Randy, the study of fundamental nature of knowledge, reality, and existence, I would think just based on that definition alone that we discuss philosophical topics throughout our episode.
I don't know about that, but I don't know, man. I think my problem was never on the word philosophy. Mm-hmm. It was on the word deep.
Yeah, fair enough.
That was always my deal. Yeah, I didn't think we weren't philosophical or talking philosophically. I felt like it wasn't necessarily deep philosophical. So that's I guess where I would give you the hard time. And it wasn't about being philosophy. I can't even say it.
Right. It's like what might be what's like considered. You know what I think of when I think of deep is like when there's not any particular movie or anything, but I think like the stereotypical when you get stoned out of your mind and then you start talking about like what's in the universe or whatever. Not that I do that. Okay, I'm just disclaimer on that too. No, I'm just kidding.
which even that's probably not deep.
No, but you think it is, right? Like you think you're like, whoa, man, I never thought about that before.
Right. Well, and it's definitely subjective, right? Like, so, I mean, what one person might think is deep is like somebody else is like, oh my gosh, that they're so just not deep. I don't know.
Right.
So
a good example, I suppose, of like going deep for you might be when I talk about I know, and I bring this up all the time. You bring it up a lot too. When I talk about leaving Mormonism, that might be like deep and really engaging for you. Where I'm like, yeah, been over that 1,000 times. Like I've told this story a million. I don't know if that's what you mean.
I just think deep is like a deep dive, like really getting into the nitty gritty. Where if we're just kind of BSing back and forth about our thoughts and stuff, I don't really think of that as deep. Right. But there again, it's subjective, man. What your deep is might not be my deep. Your deep might be 6 feet. My deep might be 12. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I think it just depends on your perspective. But,
right. But we agree that we're philosophical.
We have philosophical conversations.
There we go. Philosophical conversations.
Yeah. I don't know if yeah.
You don't know about. Depends on which episode we're in,
you
right?
need a title, man. Let's print one up for you, brother.
What's that?
I said if you need a title, we'll get you one of those stickers that say, "Hi, my name is Damien. I'm a philosopher."
I'm a wannabe philosopher. No, yeah, I'm a podcast philosopher. I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious though, and I wish at this point, because right now we're still building our listenership, but I am curious if there is any like philosophy majors or whatever out there listening, what their take would be, like what would be deep and what wouldn't be, or even what they would want to chat about. In fact, this might be a part 1, and let's bring a part 2 with somebody that is a philosophy major.
That would be really cool.
That would be really cool. Hint, guys.
Yeah. So anybody listening out there, if you're a philosophy major, or not, even if you're not like technically educated, if you know more than we do about philosophy, we'd be
be careful what we wish for on that one.
Like, if you're a nerd about it, yeah. I
know there's a lot of political experts out there.
Usually those guys are not in actual politics.
Right. I would say, it doesn't matter. But anyways, let's get on that. That's a different
episode for a different day.
Yeah. We have literally been going for 10 minutes and we haven't even started yet.
I know. I know. Lots of screwing around today, which is what this is all about. All right, so we went over the Google definition of philosophy and where philosophy actually comes from. There are 7 different branches, or at least 7 different branches of philosophy.
Right.
There's axiology, if I'm saying that right. Axiology, metaphysics, epistemology, ethics philosophy, aesthetics, logic philosophy, and political philosophy. Axiology is a study of nature of value and valuation. Metaphysics is a study of fundamental nature of reality.
Was that fundamental or fundamental?
Did I say study of?
I thought I heard fundamental.
Oh, yeah, make sure.
I'm like, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, study of fundamental nature of reality.
Which is interesting because I always thought of metaphysics as being able to what's the term where you make something visible that's not visible,
like quantum
that physics? Would be well, kind of. It's a way of well, I guess that would be metaphysical. No, metaphysical. Like where you bring something to reality that's not in reality right now.
So, epistemology, study of the nature, origin, and limits of human knowledge. I think that might be our gig a little bit.
Okay.
I think study of nature, origin, limits of human knowledge. I think that's probably what you and I care about. Like aesthetics, study of beauty and taste. I don't think we care about that. Ethics, philosophy, study of what is right and wrong in human behavior.
Well, that too, I think.
Yeah. So I think epistemology and ethics philosophy is probably what you and I, care about the most. Like, I'm interested in political philosophy, but I don't think we're going to cover that a lot in our.
I'm interested in political philosophy to the point of why people think the way they think, but not. I don't like politics at all, but I like finding just like and I don't know where it would lay on here, but I love the marketing. I guess it's more psychology, so never mind.
No,
Moving on.
yeah, no.
But like, why is it when you have two items for sale, you know, that you can have two different prices and people will go usually one to the other, but if you add a third item, so a medium priced one, and you make it close to the high priced one, a lot of people will go with the larger item, where typically when there's only two items, they'll go with the less priced item, you know, like stuff like that, like really interesting. But that's, like I said, that's more, I think, psychology than philosophy. So,
right. Well, the political philosophy, I think this kind of goes along with what you're saying, explores the concept of why we need governments, the role played by governments, and what are its constituents amongst others. So, like the why of it, instead of the like actual debating what's.
Well, I mean, you know, I think we're really stretching it, but I think that's the furthest from what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But when it's talking about why we need governments, I'm like,
I guess not the why.
That doesn't have to do with the price of popcorn at a movie theater. But anyways,
you were saying that you were interested in why people behave the way they behave within politics.
That is my favorite. In fact, I'm going to make a T-shirt that says "Why," and that'll be it. Like that's going to be my new T-shirt I'm going to have.
Like that.
That's all I want to know is why. Why are you touching your chin right now when you're laughing? You know, like what inspired your mind to do that? Like that's, you know, that's my philosophy. It's just why.
Okay, so that, I mean,
which is also psychology, I guess, instead. But anyways.
Anyway, so that's political philosophy for you, and there might be other branches of philosophy that I didn't mention, but those are the 7 that were listed on Leverage EDU or leverage.edu. So we wanted to kind of go into different famous philosophers and just brief little bullet points about who they were or what they believed, and we got some of those here. But first, Randy and I both took a philosopher personality test on idrlabs.com, and that's who we're kind of basing this off of. We took this philosopher test, like where they just ask you questions about how you would handle situations or what you believe about this subject or whatever, and then at the end they kind of lined you up with, or told you what percentage you fall in with different philosophers. And Randy, tell me. Go ahead.
Yeah, so if you're on YouTube, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, you can actually see I have the screenshot on the screen of our philosophy results. It has the different philosophers, and you can see it. If you're a radio or a radio, if you are a podcast listener, we're going to have the results on our website. And if you're even interested, if not, that's perfectly fine too. What were you going to ask me, Damien?
Well, I was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but
You're wrong.
Always, no. Every time. No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're going to be wrong.
Yeah. Well, you're like, well, why even talk right now then? So, no, the 6, there are 7. The 7 philosophers that they kind of align you with, I think we have the same guys that they did. So I have Aristotle, Epicurus, Kant, I'm going to say his name.
Kant? I feel like we should put a
question mark?
Explicit content. I'm just kidding. That's Kant. Hopefully we're pronouncing that correctly.
Yeah.
So you're a little Kant. I can see that. Sorry. I had to do that. Anyways.
That's one of the lower ratings for me. No.
Yeah.
So yeah, Aristotle, Epicurus. I think it might be Kant, but now I feel dumb. And then
Kant. That sounds better.
Diogenes.
What does Google say? I probably won't say anything.
I googled Diogenes, but I had always just said Kant in my head, even when I did take philosophy classes. And then there's Plato,
you took philosophy classes? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I took a few. There's
Kant.
Plato, Hume, and Nietzsche, I think is how you say his name. Those are the guys that we're kind of going over today.
Sorry, I was just listening
what did
to
Google say?
Well, it's Kant.
Okay.
Like I can't do it, Captain.
Okay. That's not what you were talking about before.
Yeah, but you could make it say it slow. I never realized that before. So it's like can't. I can't.
Anyways, we can have some fun with that. We
can
have an entire episode where we just put funny crap into.
What about hum?
Google.
Hum. I know. Never mind.
He's like, that's like the easiest one to pronounce too, probably out of all these names.
So one thing I found interesting, the top three, the Aristotle, Epicurus, and Kant, we have identical results on those. We do kind of diverge after that on the other four, but those three were both at 45% on Aristotle, 50% on Epicurus, and 45% on Kant. I found that really interesting. We'll have to dive deeper on that and find out what that means.
Yeah, I think I found that interesting too. And on one hand, both hands, I guess. I'm not that surprised because I feel like you and I align a lot in our thought processes and stuff like that. So it doesn't shock me, I suppose. But yeah, that'd be interesting to explore as well. All right, so the only one that I kind of took notes on that isn't on that diagram or picture, screenshot, whatever you want to call it, is Socrates.
Okay.
He's what I consider like the founding father, and he's known as the father of the Western philosophical thought.
Yeah, I saw Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I know who it is.
I haven't seen that. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Me. I got a few years on you. You never seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? Oh, man. If you want to know about history and it's all incorrect, watch that.
And it's all incorrect?
Yeah, it's great, man.
All right. Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, it was Neo before he was Neo. All right, Greek philosopher from Athens who is credited as the founder of Western philosophy.
Yeah. So he couldn't read or write, so most of his history that we know of has been passed down by his students. Plato is one of them. Plato's another famous philosopher. Socrates focused mostly on ethics, politics, and epistemology, so he'd probably be a guy that we'd be interested in interviewing. Socrates, if you're out there, hit us up.
Can you set that
up? Let's see. He was famous for the Socratic method, and this actually kind of reminded me of you, Randy. Mm-hmm. And maybe even some kind of reminds me of those who have kind of been like, why'd you guys name your podcast Not Up for Debate? Debates are fine. Kind of reminds me of those guys too. So the Socratic method is a form of cooperative, argumentative dialogue between individuals based on asking and answering questions to stimulate critical thinking and to draw out ideas and underlying presuppositions. So,
prepositions.
Presuppositions. Damien can't read. I said I wasn't going to make fun of myself. I'm doing it as we go.
I'm a philosophy major, guys. I'm kind of a big deal. Just kidding, man.
No, heck no. I'm a psychology major.
Oh, sorry, psychology.
Potato. Yeah, they're so that just reminded me of. I feel like that's how you talk to people sometimes. Like you're just except for it's not necessarily argumentative.
Right.
Like you want to get to know people. That's kind of what we do.
I do.
I guess on this podcast.
That's and I don't even know why. Like, why do I find it so interesting that some guy's walking behind his shopping cart with one hand on it instead of two, or I don't know, like the stupidest thing sometimes. Like, what? Why is he doing that?
Right. So you like to get down into the why, but you're not sure why you want to get down into the why. No.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I actually just had a conversation with my dad yesterday because he gets kind of upset sometimes when I'm asking him questions. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what I think it is, man? I think you think when I ask you questions, I'm questioning literally, like I'm questioning, why are you doing that? Not in a good, not interested way, but in a like, you're so, whatever way.
Interrogating.
But it's not. Yeah, like I'm thinking, like he thinks I think he's doing it wrong.
Right.
Or, where my real reason is I'm just curious of why he's thinking that way.
You're thoroughly intrigued.
Yeah, I'm thoroughly intrigued, and we had that conversation yesterday, and I think it actually kind of helped. Like, I think he was like, it made him understand a little bit more why, because I was actually talking about our podcast, and that's what we do is we interview people and different different viewpoints, and I was like, but it's not about questioning them. Well, it is questioning them, but not in a bad way. It's in a good way, and I think that's can be misconstrued, and I think that's why Holly thought I was debating. We had this conversation too, I think, on the podcast, where some people think that any back and forth could be a debate. Where I think a debate is if you're trying to push your agenda. That's what a debate is.
Persuasion kind of thing.
Yeah. Like, this is why I think that Hunt's ketchup is better than Heinz, and I'm going to tell you why. So obviously that's just an example, but you know what I'm saying,
right? So yeah, you're like a student of the
people.
I'd
be like more like, why do you think Heinz is like what's the reason for that?
And I think it's normal that people react that way. You know what I mean? Like they're like, why are you like asking?
Yeah, why do you even care?
And because most of the time, man, I don't think it is an honest intrigue. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but a lot of times I think people are asking, why do you believe this? Why do you believe that? In an interrogatory or accusational.
Because it goes against their viewpoint.
Yeah. Whereas our goal in this podcast is to be more like, but we actually want to know why, like what?
Yeah,
it's intriguing. It's fascinating. Fascination.
There's a second T-shirt. We just want to know why.
We just want to know why. Yep. Yeah, that'll be the T-shirt right after presuppositions.
Yeah, exactly.
So
anyways.
Yeah, so I was going to move us on to Plato. So Plato was a student of Socrates. He was what they call if I'm saying it right, priori. So he sought knowledge logically rather than from the senses. So
okay.
He focused on justice, beauty, and equality. And he created, this is what I think he's probably the most famous for, because I even knew this without even having to research. He created the Academy.
Aren't you special?
I'm special. I say without doing the research, but I wouldn't have known that if I didn't like actually learn it in school. Like
that wasn't your psychic. Your sixth sense.
Yeah,
I feel like he means.
Yeah,
but anyways,
let's just say I knew that before a week and a half ago when I started looking at this this stuff for this podcast, for this episode. But yeah, he built the academy in Athens. So what I didn't really know is I don't think it was like a lecture type situation, like how you kind of view college now. But he taught students how to think, not really what to think. He wanted them to kind of come to their own conclusions, but not not kind of.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. Like where he's teaching them how to think critically, not necessarily like here's your Q&A. Here's I'm gonna ask you a question, you have a direct answer for it.
He taught them how to fish, not give it to them.
Yeah, there we go. I like that.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So and then Aristotle was a student of Plato.
Okay, and we'll find out more about him just as soon as we come back from our break.
Okay. Yep.
All right. We'll be right back.
Hey, Randy, have you ever had crack and cheese?
Well, I've had one of those. I'll let you guess which one.
Combine them, man. Just like Satisfied Food Truck did to create their delicious crack and cheese dinner. It's a handcrafted 3-cheese macaroni with buttery panko, or what they call a hood rat crumble, on top. I love the hood rat crumble.
Oh man, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, chasing it down with their Gingosaurus punch is the next step to a perfect dinner. And if you don't go for the crack and cheese, then go for the basic bird slider. I love me a good mini burger.
I mean, why not get both?
Exactly. Order the whole food truck.
How do I find them?
They're in the San Antonio area. Look up Satisfied on Facebook or at satisfied.sa on Instagram. Also, they do catering. Visit their catering website at enzosce.com. That's ENZOSCE.com.
Awesome. I'll tell them Damien sent me.
Hey, Randy, you remember how excited I was when I bought my house here in San Antonio?
Oh, yeah, man. You were pretty excited.
You know the one thing I didn't like?
That you were 2,000 miles away from the blue field?
The fence, Randy. The fence.
Oh.
Yeah, it was one windstorm from blowing over. That is until I was introduced to Van and Sons Fencing. Mark was able to meet with me right away and give me free quotes on different variations of how to build our fence. I eventually went with cedar pickets, treated 2x4s, and metal posts that were able to withstand winds of 120 miles per hour.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And you need that with the storms you get down there.
Right? And a year later, I'm still happy with the beautiful sturdy fence and the 2 gates that Van and Sons built for us. Mark, the owner, is actually a neighbor of mine, and he's done several fences in our neighborhood, and I can tell that they have integrity with each job. They don't cut corners, and they offer fair prices. They'll price match other reputable fence companies too.
Well, if I get my act together and actually move to San Antonio, I'll have to hit up Van and Sons Fencing. Are they on social media?
Of course, check out Van and Sons Fencing on Facebook. They have plenty of great pictures of their craftsmanship. And when you're ready, you can message them directly on Messenger or call or text Mark directly at 210-944-9238. Oh, and remember, fences make great neighbors.
Hey guys, Randy from the podcast here. As you might have known, I'm actually a realtor in the Boise, Idaho mountain home area with Next Home Treasure Valley. If you are looking to move to this area, let me know. Send me a message, and I'd like to help you out.
Yeah, and I can vouch for Randy's real estate expertise. I lived in Boise, Caldwell, for 7 years, and he was ready to sell my house when I was ready to move for work purposes. Love the area. I 100% recommend that area as well. And Randy was right on the ball.
Thanks, Damien, man. I appreciate it. So if you go to YouTube at Randy W Real Estate, that'll take you to my videos, or you can just email me at randy@randywrealestate.com, and we can get the ball rolling. So let me know if there's anything you need. And thanks, Damien. Thank you, guys.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Not Up for Debate. Thanks for taking that quick break with us. For us, it's Randy and Damien here again. We just left off on Play-Doh, and that's Plato, guys. Okay, not like the dough that you play with. My 5-year-olds love.
Wow,
love to leave all over the table.
We really stretch for that
one. So after Plato, I have Aristotle. So Aristotle was a student of Plato's. And he went to Plato's Academy. And whenever I say Plato's Academy, I think of Plato's Closet. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I think that's before. An Idaho
Is that an Idaho
store.
Thing? Okay.
Yeah, that's a local, because someone was telling me they knew the owner of it. So I highly doubt they're national. But just so you guys know, Plato's, right?
Yeah, Plato's
Closet. Yeah. It's like a used, right? Like where they buy used clothes.
And I think it's like name brand, like.
So it's like nice used clothes.
Yeah, I think
gently used or whatever.
Yeah, and that was not necessarily a plug for Plato's Closet, but why not?
I think they would probably have a website that people can go to if they are interested. I won't say it, but go ahead.
Right. Anyway, that's what I think of every time I say Plato's Academy.
But I'm assuming you just throw a .com at the end of that, and you probably go right to it.
Gonna get really close. If you Google it, you'll probably.
They don't have to Google it, man. They just go with the name .com. I mean, they're good to go.
Yeah, that's probably the safest bet every time. All right, so Aristotle, again, if I'm saying this word right, he was a posterior.
He's in the booties.
Posterior.
Posterior.
I don't know.
I like big butts.
There are no conclusions on that. I'm just kidding. Probably no. So he believed that conclusions are formed on actual observation and data. So he's kind of the science guy. Like, I kind of think of him as like the psych guy, actually, psychology guy. And if I remember when I was looking him up, that he did a lot of work for the foundation of psychology, not just philosophy, for that purpose. So anyway, or for that, in that way, because he cared a lot about observing actual data to form his conclusions. So, all right. So he also formed his own school. So he learned at Plato's Academy, and he created the peripatetic school of philosophy, or the Lyceum, it's more commonly known as the Lyceum, but I believe the Lyceum is like the grounds it was actually held on. He didn't actually have a physical building. He had a broad range of focus, like a lot. So he covered science, art, biology, botany, chemistry, ethics, history, philosophy. Okay, psychology.
Basically, if you ever hated a class in high school, he
was the teacher.
Studied it. Yeah.
He was the teacher. He was in zoology. I think that's one that he was famous for too, was zoology. Just real quick as a side note that you joked about that, Randy. When I say I'm not an expert, I'm definitely not an expert. This was the worst grade I got in college, was philosophy.
So, was it?
Yeah, I think it was like I think it was a C for the overall class, and I think that was that.
Look at that, the subtle brag you just wrote there. That was my worst class that I ever got in all of college.
I did well.
It was a C plus.
I did very. Yeah, it was a C. It was an A minus. It was
Yeah.
so stupid. No. But that professor though, man. Obviously not going to name names or say the school or anything, but that professor.
But it rhymes with Mr. Hudson.
Yeah. Changes everything except for like or changes only the first letter.
Yeah.
No, that professor. I did not like the way he graded any of that, but I mean, obviously you're gonna dislike the one that you get the least grades in. But anyway, side note: that professor, I believe, ended up getting in trouble for. I think it was something. Either sexual or racist, like a few years after I graduated from there, and I was like, all right.
I had a teacher that was actually a really great teacher. I don't remember his name, but he was in junior high. One of the funnest teachers I had. I remember he said his name in high school was called High Pockets, and it was because he had a big booty. So when he pulled up his pants, his pockets were super high. But anyways, he was not a teacher at all. He was one of those people that you hear about that faked being a teacher.
No way.
And yeah, dude, best teacher probably I ever had. Not even a teacher. He was so informative though, man. Like he was great, dude. He listened to you. He had a way of relating to the students. Not even a teacher, not even didn't get his degree or whatever. Somehow he had to be very educated though, or intelligent to be able to find a way to be able to do that. So it's just kind of interesting you were bringing up yours because it reminded me of that one.
I didn't know that you had experienced that. That's kind of the fun story.
Yeah, dude. Well, the real question is then my diploma that I got is that actually accurate? Is it legit? Because I had a teacher that wasn't even a teacher that was part of that.
So this is gonna go off track for sure, but the way I view that, maybe I shouldn't quote the Bible if I don't have the verse available. But basically, somewhere in the Bible it talks about how teachers that are the pastors, all that are responsible for teaching the gospel, that they'll basically be dinged a bit more than like their students. You know what I mean? Like, because it's not your fault as the student if you're being led incorrectly. And I am sorry if I butchered that. I don't know where that's at in the Bible, but I remember having read it at one point, so I was like, oh, that makes me feel a little bit more valid. And I know you're talking about, we're talking about two different, I'm talking about...
No, I see the connection.
Yeah,
for
talking
sure.
about theology, and you're talking about school.
But then my thought is, well, the guy was great. He just wasn't, he didn't have the paperwork saying, hey, I'm a teacher, even though he was probably 10 times the teacher of some of my teachers that did have that paperwork.
Right.
So then the question is, would he get dinged or would he actually be elevated because he just didn't go by the government?
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's very...
And that was an ironic quote, guys, not I really am against the government. I'm not, No, but anyways.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. It reminds me of the quote that was like I'll never let school get in the way of my education. Something like that. I read that a few years ago on Facebook, and I thought it was accurate.
Yeah, there was another. Don't ever let the truth get in the way of a good story, I guess. Is
yeah, there you go. Anyway, So back to Aristotle. So let's see. He invented the field of formal logic, which is the science of deductive valid inferences or logical truths. And he was this is the fun fact. Aristotle.
Yeah, let's do the fun facts. This other shit's kind of sorry, excuse my language.
You're good. Aristotle was the first person to firmly suggest that Earth is spherical, along with relevant arguments. So he observed stars in Egypt and Cyprus, which were not seen in northerly regions. So he was the first one that said, "Hey, I think the Earth might be round." Or
how could we possibly even know that?
I don't know, right? And that's what I want. I'm like, maybe he's the first recorded person to have said that. You know what I mean? Like maybe he's the first guy that wrote it down, or that they could trace it back to. But I'm like, really? There's billions of other people that lived before him, and not one person thought maybe it's a circle or a square. Or
right.
So no, I thought that was an interesting.
He observed stars in Egypt and Cyprus, which were not seen in northern regions. Well, how would he know that? It was like I was watching a thing, and it had one of the not Bill Nye, but before him, the science guy. He had I should know this too. If people are listening to this, they're probably laughing at me. The one that was responsible for putting the gold record thing on the space on the Voyager ship. He was like a Carl Sagan, but he had a video I was just watching where they were talking about one of probably the philosophers that we're looking at right here. It might have been Aristotle. He was talking about the obelisk. So, anyways, he was saying that one of the philosophers said there was two obelisks, one in one region and then one in a northern region, and they knew because if the shadow was the same at the same time, that the world was flat. But if the shadow was different, that the world had to be round because of the curvature of the Earth. But it was a great distance away, and my thought was, well, I mean, I guess he could have had someone in each area, and they could have wrote down their results. Okay, right. That works. But there was no way for him to experience both of them at the same time. But yeah, I guess that's how that would have had to have been. Right. But anyways, I digress again.
Right. No, I mean, that's...
You know what?
No, I was going to say, I mean, first of all, Aristotle's an ancient philosopher, so I don't know. There might be more information on that. That's just a fun little bullet point I have, but it would be interesting to, how do you figure that? Like, how do we do that with a lot of things? Like, this was the first person to ever do that. I'm like, are they though? You know, but recorded though, and maybe that's what they mean by firmly suggest. Like, we know that, like, this was the first guy that recordedly said, "Hey, I think the world might be round" or something. But all right. So going into a little bit more modern times.
I can't do it, Captain.
Randy's favorite, Immanuel Kant, 1724 to 1804. So whereas we're jumping big time, Aristotle was 384 BC. So we're talking in the last couple hundred years now, or last few. Right. So he studied and taught at Albert's University of Königsberg, Prussia, which is now Russia, Kaliningrad, Russia. He focused on ethics and moral actions. He believed in... Go ahead.
Right is right and wrong is wrong.
There is no
gray area.
Yeah, there is no gray area. That's kind of what I was...
Which, yeah, I don't know if he's my... I love his name, but I'm like so not him.
Yeah,
like,
no,
yeah.
Go ahead, Randy. Sorry, keep it.
I'm just like, if there was two sides of the road, I'm literally where the line is. Like, right. You know, I'm if there's a black and there's a white, I am definitely the grayest of gray.
And it's funny because that's when I read that originally, when I put this in here, I thought the same thing. I was like, Randy and I are like the furthest from Kant, I think. So it's like just
we're not even a little Kant.
No, not even tiny Kants. However, our test results show that we're kind of big Kants, dude.
That is interesting.
That's a new T-shirt. Kind of big Kants.
We're both at 45%.
45% Kant.
It's interesting, and I wasn't even paying attention with the other ones. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
So Aristotle was 45 for both of us, also.
Yeah.
And then we haven't talked about Epicurus, have we?
Right. Yeah. No. But Aristotle, I think, makes sense for us. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know I should. For me, it makes sense, and I'm sure it makes sense for you. I'm just kind of lumping us together. But there's obviously things you and I don't like see eye to eye on for everything. But
Really?
anyways,
Why is that?
yeah.
Kidding.
Let's dive into the why. So, but yeah. So Kant believed what is right is right, what is wrong, no gray area. And let's see. So next I have Friedrich Nietzsche, which I had to Google several times how to say that.
Isn't it?
Um,
Well, I've always heard people say Nietzsche, but it's probably Nietzsche, and we probably just butcher it.
I think in his native. No, I think in English it's supposed to be Nietzsche.
Well, that's what the little pronunciation thing right next to his name says.
That's I typed that out for myself.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was your butchering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's butchered, it's because of how I. But I just remember typing it out how I thought it sounded when the Google Voice told me. But Nietzsche, if I'm saying it right, I'm gonna feel bad if I'm not. Let's say it multiple times incorrectly. He was atheist, and he was famous for the "God is dead" statement. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that. And Nietzsche did hate religion. He is famous for uncompromising criticisms of traditional European morality and religion. So yeah, and when he said "God is dead," I guess that was a famous line that he said I don't know if it was in a speech or a writing, but that's something he's famous for. And he meant the concept of having a God, not that we literally killed a God. Just to make sure everybody is clear on that. He didn't believe in absolute objective truths in science or ethics, and morals are chosen by man and peddled by religion. Is kind of the notes that I put down. I wrote that out. That was not a copy and paste. Good job, Damien.
So is he? Oh, okay. So that was your. I'm gonna say. So is he more like what do you call it? Nihilist type. Most people operate under what he coined slave morality. Slave morality is the morality of the weak or those who are ruled over. This form of morality is perpetuated by the resentment felt by the majority towards the individuals who have power and wealth. The masses therefore denounce the values and morality of their rulers.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's another one that's there's two. There's slave morality, and then there's I think it's called master morality, and it's like the opposite of what you just read. So it's like the morality from the master's perspective. But I think that he believed that most people operate under slave, along slave morality.
Well, and this is actually somewhere where we kind of diverge a little bit. I am at 25% Nietzsche.
Interesting.
And you're at 10%. And what's really interesting is I think he sounds a little bit like a D-bag, but I guess I think what it is the let me pull it back up again. The slave morality. I can understand it a little bit, I guess, is where I'm at. Like, I can kind of see where he's coming from. He still doesn't sound like someone I'd want to hang out with,
right,
or do a podcast with, but where you literally just have like 10% him, like,
so
you know.
I think it's interesting, and maybe I'm not understanding the concept, but maybe tell me what you think about this. So when I read that, I thought of we had a conversation. I don't remember if it was recorded or not. I don't remember if it was upon the podcast or not. But we had a conversation about our thoughts on the multi-billionaires, right? Like the big guys. I think we might have even specifically talked about
that was on a podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So and we specifically talked about the big guy of the world's biggest company. I think we can assume who that is.
Elon Musk. He's not going to hear this podcast. Yeah. We could say his name.
Yeah. Well, he comes after us. I'd be like, you know what? Yeah. I welcome that fame. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No. So I think we talked about him and Jeff Bezos. Anyway, and I'm wondering if that's kind of what he's kind of talking about.
See, I don't really see myself, and not that we're debating this, but I'm just saying I really don't see Elon Musk as like I know a lot of people can't stand him, and I understand that, but I actually think he has been revolutionary. Like I think a lot of what he does is for the betterment of society, not the worsening. And I know that's like sacrilegious to a lot of people what I just said.
No.
But just because he has money to me doesn't necessarily make him a bad person. But in the podcast, and I know you have something, but just real quick, what I was saying in the podcast that we talked about was I was saying a lot of people automatically look down on those who have a lot of money, but they're not seeing the good that they're bringing in the world. They're not seeing the jobs that they're creating. They're not seeing the betterments that they are bringing. All they're seeing is, boy, these people have all this money, and they're not helping the poor or the homeless or whatever. But honestly, a lot of homeless, I mean, you can go hand them $100,000, and a lot of them will still choose to be homeless. They'll just be homeless with a little extra money. You know, it's in my opinion, from what I've seen. But go ahead and with your.
Well, I was about to say it's interesting because I am that guy that's like, you could be doing something else with that money to better humanity, but again, to an extent they've earned that money. Even that I think is debatable to an extent. But Elon, for some reason specifically, you had brought up Elon specifically for him. He doesn't bother me as much as Jeff Bezos does, and I don't understand, like, internally why. I'm like, why does Jeff Bezos piss me off? But Elon Musk doesn't. I don't understand.
He's the Amazon guy, right?
Yeah.
Why does that piss you off?
I don't know, and you know what I think? I think there's some truth to what you were just saying. As far as I understand, both of those guys, I believe Elon is doing something, like he's trying to advance humanity. I think, whereas I don't see that from Jeff. So when I think of Jeff, I'm just like, okay, so like rich, powerful guy, cool. Whereas Elon, I'm like, okay, he's rich and powerful, but I know he's doing something to advance humanity, and I don't know what Jeff is doing. And maybe
he's bringing us 2-day shipping is what he's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, where else can you buy these products that you've never heard of? That could flip your eggs for you without you having to get up from the couch.
Right.
That's what Amazon brings us.
I guess with Jeff, and it's probably all perspective too, as far as like, well, I see what Elon Musk is doing is obviously much more necessary or more helpful than Jeff. Again, though, not an expert, don't know what those guys are doing with their lives, other than making
for that one
a boatload of money. And I know Elon is like trying to get us to Mars, right? Or
he's done a lot with the space, obviously, and different things. The Tesla, which I think is, in fact, he reminds me a lot of Tesla. I think he was definitely probably not a mentor because obviously he was dead, but I think he studied his work. I'm sure. He's also got a little social awkwardness, which I think that might be why he rubs people the wrong way a little bit. But I like him, man. Like,
it might be why we like him a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I've seen him. He was been on Joe Rogan at least once, but I think a couple of times. I just like the way his brain thinks. Like, he was talking about part of our what could help our traffic situation is to have underground roads also. Not just so actually have where you can go both ways, but I've also seen where like he has it, I guess, going in, I think it's to the Tesla plant or something. He has an underground road, but it's like a one way, like, and then something happened, like a car broke down and like everyone was like screwed behind it because they couldn't move. I don't know. That was a meme I saw. But I think I kind of just went off path a little bit. I was looking at Jeff Bezos a little bit. I really don't know a lot about him, to be honest with you. Was Jeff Bezos born rich? Jeff Bezos was not born into a wealthy family. I really don't know a lot about him, just to be honest. Right. I've seen like an interview, like an early interview when he had just kind of started Amazon, and he was talking about that. But I really don't know a lot. Where I think Elon Musk is a little bit more vocal.
It'd be interesting to do an entire episode on both of those guys. You know what I mean? Like
the
ultra rich or whatever.
I don't know if it'd be interested for the listeners, but we'd definitely have a good time.
We'd have a good
Just this one. We probably have 0 listeners at this point.
Do you guys want to like hear us just research stuff? Does that sound fun? Does that sound fun to you?
And now the research hour with Damien and Randy.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So we were on Nietzsche.
Yeah.
So the next one that I have listed, and this is out of order, Epicurus, if I'm saying that.
Oh, yeah. We went back in time a little bit again.
Yeah, we did go back in time.
Now, this one, we both were at 50%, right?
Yeah.
That's him? Yeah.
He believed that experiencing pleasure was the ultimate good in life.
Which, I can't hear that coming out of my mouth, but it said that we're 50%,
Yeah, says that we're 50%. I'm 50%. He was an empiricist, which means that he believed only the senses are the reliable source of knowledge in the world about the world. So I think he's like almost the opposite of Aristotle, right? Or was it Aristotle that said, that he wanted actual observation and data, whereas Epicurus is almost the opposite of that. He derived most of his.
That didn't make sense what you were just saying. Epicurus believed that the senses are reliable. Oh, reliable, yeah, that too. And then Aristotle, what now? He wanted data.
Aristotle believed that conclusions are formed on actual observation and data.
How is that different than Epicurus relying on the senses?
I don't know. I mean, because I think you can.
Well, you said it was opposite. That's why I'm just trying to figure out how that's opposite.
I don't know how you're going to measure your senses, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it's
like to me, it's the same almost. Like one is saying they only believe in what we can experience, and the other one's saying they're believing we can only believe what we experience. Yeah. Which it's weird to me if I'm understanding it correctly, because I don't see either one of us at 50% there.
When I think of what Epicurus was, and maybe I just misunderstood this, but I think of like feelings, I suppose. So like truth comes from feelings, which is not necessarily what I subscribe to anymore.
Epicurus, Epicurus taught that the universe is infinite and eternal, and that all matter is made up of extremely tiny invisible particles known as atoms. He was way off. I'm just kidding. All occurrences in the natural world are ultimately the result of atoms moving in and around. Okay, I guess, yeah. So maybe I was misunderstanding where he was. Epicurus deviated from Democritus by proposing the idea of atomic swerve. Get your swerve on. Which holds that atoms may deviate from their expected course, thus permitting humans to possess free will in an otherwise deterministic universe. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna change my answer from earlier and say I can definitely agree with this.
Yeah. So it makes sense that you're at 50% with him.
Yeah. A little bit.
And then. Finally, I think this is our last guy, is Diogenes.
Is that how you pronounce it?
I Googled it right before the episode, so I hope so. And I actually wrote how they wrote it.
Gotcha.
So he's also Diogenes the Cynic. Is that what you were asking about? No, you weren't asking about cynicism earlier. So Diogenes the Cynic, a Greek philosopher, founder of cynicism. Believed in self-sufficiency and rejected luxury.
Diogenes.
How
were you saying it?
I was probably saying
Diogenes.
Diogenes.
For the cynics, the purpose of life is to live in virtue and agreement with nature. As reasoning creatures, people can gain happiness by rigorous training and by living in a way which is natural for themselves, rejecting all conventional desires for wealth, power, and fame, and even flouting conventions openly and diversively in public. That is interesting, because I feel like a lot of people, and I'm not saying everybody before we get hate mail, but I think a lot of people bring on their own depression because of their wants in the world. Like, I think people look at other people's lives and they look at what they have, especially now with social media. They are depressed because why don't I have that? Why can't I be that way? Why, And so it's not just fear of missing out, but like just they're just they don't realize that they're actually making life worse for them. Instead of accepting, okay, this is who I am. I only have one arm. It's depressing that I don't have two arms like everybody else. Why can't I? Or why am I a 400-pound man and the world's not made for me? Like it's kind of depressing. But instead of embracing that,
Right.
and I'm just using that as an example because that's what I am. I don't know, but anyways, go ahead.
That's okay. So he rejected a lot of what I understand. He rejected a lot of social and moral norms, like again, basically living for yourself, right? What is natural to you. So I kind of I agree with a lot of what you were just saying, Randy. So he was the first, again, one of the first, but he was the first to call himself a citizen of the world. He rejected state borders and again other social norms and moral norms.
Right.
So he wasn't like, I'm a citizen of
Right.
I don't remember where he's from, but he's like, I don't belong to that city. I belong to the world.
Well, he was a Greek philosopher, so
he might be.
I'm assuming Greece might be.
Yeah, he might be. And then this is kind of a fun story that I just threw in there. Diogenes is famous for living naked in an old clay wine barrel in the street.
Ah.
I don't know how long he did that. And sometimes walked around.
I wonder if there was a hole cut out.
Yeah, I have no idea. And sometimes walked around with an oil lamp in the daytime, explaining that he was looking for an honest man. One story has him chased out of the marketplace for masturbating in public, and he later lamented that if only it was easy to cure hunger by rubbing his belly. So that's what I think he's the guy that I had texted you about, and I was like, that guy's sounds kind of like he was a weirdo, but
Oh, okay. You had the wrong.
I think I had the wrong guy though. Yeah, I think I was texting you about the wrong guy, but because it was like the one that you matched with the most. I was like, yeah, I think that guy's the weirdo, but no.
Right.
But I had the wrong guy. Anyway, he out of all of them, he almost reminds me of like a hippie, I guess.
Yeah, what's interesting? I mean, obviously the pleasuring himself in public was definitely, I think, probably crossing a line. Mm-hmm. Of course, I guess that's up to debate. But if only it was easy to cure hunger by rubbing his belly, kind of reminds me of stuff that I do. Like if I have a headache, I actually sometimes will. It sounds so stupid. I can't believe I would say this. But I will imagine my headache as an object, right? So it's either a ball or a square or whatever the shape reminds me of. And I'll do one of two things. One, I will try to duplicate that square or that ball or whatever. Like I'll lay on top of it. Do you know what phasing is? Mm-mm. Phasing in audio is if you have two of the same audio playing at the same time, it will actually cut out the audio. So I'm kind of like phasing the headache. But the more thing that reminds me of this is I will actually pull the headache out of my head and I will feel it coming kind of out. And it works about 80% of the time. Mm-hmm. It's not 100%, but it reminds me of on that one Harry Potter where he would take Dumbledore would take the wand and pull the memories and put it in the thing. Well, that's what I'm kind of doing. I'm pulling the headache out of my head, but it works. And I don't know if I'm just releasing endorphins and that's why the headache kind of goes away or what, but it kind of reminded me when he said about rubbing his belly. Did we have more planned to go into a little bit?
No, as far as we've kind of wrapped up for, those are the 7 guys that we could be compared to in that test, and that's actually what I wanted to jump into next is how our listeners, if you're still with us after this ridiculousness.
Yeah. If there is one person still listening to this, I am going to be amazed at this point.
This is probably our
This is the biggest shit show of an episode we've done.
Yeah, we've done. Yep, I agree. That's what you get for dealing with Damien's research for the last week and a half.
Yeah, anyway. Well, I should have actually started paying attention to it when you sent it to me instead of waiting till the actual show. But it's so much like high school, dude. Like I feel like
it feels like a lecture to you. Some people might find this fascinating, though. Who knows?
And then, no, I've actually been interested. I just wasn't interested until the moment that we started recording.
Right.
But
so
that's my own fault.
So we wanted to invite you guys to kind of participate with this a little bit. I know it sounds funny because we're at the end of the episode, but we have the Philosopher Personality Test on IDR Labs. If Randy, are you able to put the website link or at least type it out?
I can put the link on top, but we should probably say it for the listeners.
Okay. It's Philosopher Personality Test, IDR Labs. Click on it.
Is that their website is IDR Labs?
So if you go to idrlabs.com/philosopher-personalities/test, you can get there. We'll also put a link. On there for you guys to grab it. But if you go in there, it's like a 10-minute little test. It's kind of like a personality. It is a personality test. If you guys have taken a personality test before, if you would like to do that, and then send us your test results, or it doesn't have to be the test results. Just you can send us like, hey, I did that test and I aligned most with Aristotle or whatever. Just some kind of interaction, letting us know that you did it. Send it to contact@notupfordebate.com. That's the number 4. And when you do that, we want to kind of collect these results over the next couple months. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think it'd be cool if they did like a screenshot, like you were saying, and then we can keep track of that. But real quick, man, if you an easier way with the Philosopher, if you don't want to put all those slashes and dots and all that, if you go to idrlabs.com and then hit Control F and then just type in the word Philosopher, because there's like 100 different, more than that, probably a couple hundred different tests they have, and I'm gonna have to check some of these out. But if you put Control F and type Philosopher or even Philosophy, it'll actually take you to those tests, and just a fast way to kind of look at some of the philosophers. So sorry to cut you off there. I just thought, like, for me, if I'm listening to this, I'm not going to go through all those forward slashes and all that, but I will go to idrlabs.com and then hit Control F and then type in Philosopher.
Yeah, do Randy's way. That's probably the easiest way. If you send us a screenshot, that's like what we would prefer. And the reason why we kind of want to get a reading on where our listeners are at with their philosophical standings. I say it all the time. I don't know why I couldn't say it that time.
It's because you're a psych major, not a philosophy major.
Yeah, there we go. That's the difference right there. No,
that's the difference.
So we kind of want to see where you guys stand, and we'd love to see those results. And then, in 2 or 3 months, somewhere in there, we'll do a drawing for anybody that submitted their names, or that submitted their results, and we will. We're looking at sending you either a mug or a T-shirt, something like that. If you are entered in that drawing and you win the drawing, you get a mug or a T-shirt or something.
I feel like we need to do a psychology episode too, man, because so many of these things, and it's probably my own ignorance. I actually get them confused from psychology to philosophy, and I know that on the surface I know the difference, but like Carl Jung, I thought was a philosopher, and turns out he's a psychologist. But I feel like he has a philosophical way of looking at the universe and the world. So like with synchronicities and stuff, like I love the idea of that. So like that's really, I thought that was going to come up in our conversation today, and it's not. So I would kind of like to go over that. But
I would be interested in that too. I'm thinking of all these. I have a textbook that I loved in one of my classes that really dove into basically doing the same thing, where it's like diving into these famous psychologists and therapists that like kind of shape the way we look at psychology now. So.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we should do like a boiled down, like this episode is about Aristotle instead of just a broad spectrum of him. But what I was laughing about, and I wasn't laughing at you, is I'm at these tests right now, and right above the philosopher test is a Twilight test where you can see what Twilight character you're most like, right next to the Hogwarts test to see.
If you send us the results of the Twilight one, you will be actually taken out of the drawings. I'm just kidding. I'm just kind of kidding.
If you're Team Edward or Jacob, wasn't that the name?
yeah. Team Edward or Jacob.
There's some really cool looking tests on this though. Like even if you don't do the philosopher one, like definitely cool to check out. With. Yeah, if the food test, let's see, IQ test. Oh,
don't
depression test. Yeah, are you Potter? The Harry Potter character test is an unscientific. Oh, okay. At least they tell you it's unscientific.
Yeah, at least
just for fun
not
test.
Factual. Yeah, just for the
one of 7 main characters from the Harry Potter franchise. So you can see if you're Hermione, or how do you say her name?
Hermione.
Hermione. Yeah. You millennials, all the Harry Potter stuff.
Well, if there was one thing I was an expert on, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah. It would be The Office, not Harry Potter. It would be
That is very true. I'm sure there's an Office test on here.
Dude, I bet.
Are you a Michael whatever?
Is there?
No, there's no Office.
No
test.
way. How about Parks and Rec?
Parks. Nope.
Really?
They just don't like your dry sense of humor, man.
What about sitcom?
There is a South Park test, though.
Of course.
You can find out if you're a Cartman. The Trump test. You can find out if you're Trump.
If you're Trumpian.
Yeah. I promise you, if you have a flag that says F Biden, you're probably pro-Trump.
Probably something like that.
It's just a guess. I don't know. And then if you had the opposite, you had a F Trump test,
probably yeah,
or F Trump flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I digressed again.
Anyway, so if you guys want to participate, send those to us, and we'd love.
Are
to
you
hear
a narcissist? Sorry.
Oh yeah, I've seen those tests.
I can just look at this website, dude. Just laughing at just the Jung type tests. Carl Jung. CG test first. I know I totally butchered what you're saying. If you could send those to us, that'd be awesome. And what I was thinking, and Damien and I kind of talked about it a little bit, is on this test, and I know if you are listening, it's probably hard to see what we're talking about, but there's 7 different philosophers, and underneath each philosopher it says what percentage of that philosopher relates to you. Now, I thought it would take like 100%, like you're 100%, and it would divide it into wedges. So you might be 30% this, 50% that, 10% that. But that's not how it works. It actually says what you are of their belief. So you can be 80% of all 7 philosophers. So it's a little different than what I thought it was. But it is interesting. But what we would like to do is actually take those results that people send us and kind of do an average of them and see where our listeners lie. Is all of our listeners 50% Nietzsche or not Nietzsche, whoever we were, Epicurus? Mm-hmm. It'd be really interesting. So
yeah, it'd be really interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely.
For what the average for our listeners are. So, and then wonder if if you guys would align with Randy and I or not, somewhere along those lines. Anyway, I think that about wraps us up, right, Randy?
That does. Some of these tests, man. Yes, that absolutely. I don't even want to say them out loud because I'd probably considered evil for laughing at some of these. All right, the cat test. Oh, it's measuring your cat's personality. Okay. Huh. Hey, the corona test, you can find out if you have COVID from
from a personality test. Stupid. Oh my god.
All right, guys. Well, if you are still listening, thank you very much. Damien's gonna go ahead and walk us out of this one.
Yeah. Again, we'd love to hear from you guys. whether it's for this contest, the drawing thing that you would want to do. Also, if you want to be a guest, if you want to comment, participate at all with our podcast, send us an email, contact@notupfordebate.com. That's the number 4. Visit our website, notupfordebate.com as well. Follow us on social media. And we hope you guys have a great week. See you guys later.
Thanks, guys.